One of the reasons why I absolutely love the story of Reverse 1999 is because of the countless Easter eggs and their references from real life. And their first event, the theft of the Rimet Cup, is of course no exception. So I wanted to showcase some of the inspirations that the developer used to craft their story. Everything from real life events, references to many different characters, and ultimately just how everything has been incorporated into their fictional setting. So with that said, let's talk about the event. The entire event story revolves around the mystery behind the stolen Jules Rimet trophy, the original World Cup trophy that was created in the 1930s. Now this trophy would eventually be stolen on March 20th of 1966, few months before the 1966 FIFA World Cup that was to take place in England. And worried that the trophy would never be retrieved, the government decides to secretly create a replica. Now while the history of its real-life counterpart is not completely identical to that of Reverse 1999 story, the general idea behind the replica is clearly evident in the story, which I thought was really cool to see. But on top of this overall concept of the story, there were other similarities that I thought were really awesome. For example, a black and white collie named Pickles eventually finds the Rimet Cup, who then becomes a national icon. Of course, representing Pickles within the story of Reverse 1999, which is really cool and one of my favorite characters in the game. I also learned that the stamps that are depicted within the UI of the event actually represents the stamp collection exhibition that was being held alongside the Rimet Cup at the Methodist Central Hall in Westminster, London. Even these robots that show up during the event is a clear homage to Daleks from British television series Doctor Who, which started airing in 1963. And the more I played through the event, I started to really appreciate just how much effort was put into every aspect of the game, which made my experience way better than I originally anticipated. But of course, it doesn't end there. Just like how Pickles represents the real dog in history, other characters also match their historical references and timeline of London during the 1960s. We of course know that Regulus is a pirate DJ during the 1960s, so it's not too shocking to see her in this particular event because this is her timeline of existence after all. But the way that Regulus is showcased in the event really brings home the whole idea of her rejecting the mainstream conformity, consistently going against the control of the government and questioning their authority to advocate for social changes. Now Charlton, the owner of Pickles, is an obvious reference to Bobby Charlton, who won the 1966 FIFA World Cup with England. Now even though Charlton in the game wasn't a footballer himself, it was still awesome to see this reference in the game, especially since Bobby Charlton had a huge impact and significance on England during the 1960s. Diggers is also very interesting because he basically is the embodiment of the hippie movement that was represented in London in the 60s. They would use Carnaby Street, you know, the same street from the whole fire engine fiasco during the event, as their central hub for counterculture activities, advocating rebellion, peace, love, which were all heavily showcased through Digger's story in the event. And of course, as we already mentioned, Pickles, who eventually became a cultural icon and a celebrity for finding the Rimet Cup. Now there is one character we still haven't talked about yet, and that's of course Melania, the main character of the theft of the Rimet Cup event. When it comes to Melania, it's very clear that she doesn't reflect anyone specific from history. She's a fictional character within the narrative of Reverse 1999 that pushes the story. But there was something I found absolutely awesome about her that goes much deeper than I originally thought. You see, the entire journey of Melania during the event mirrors many aspects of other supporting characters throughout the story. Let me explain. Diggers, Pickles, and Regulus. These three other supporting characters in the event foreshadows the journey of Melania. Digger's whole goal throughout the event was for the people of London to experience freedom, or his view of utopia, using his arcane skill to help people see the creative side of humanity, essentially to break free from social norms through imagination. Interestingly, Melania's initial perception of Diggers was that his methods were impulsive, unplanned, and inexplicable, which we learned that Melania never appreciated in the past. But as we follow the story of Melania, she goes from someone that was closed-minded into someone that learns to be flexible, all in order to reach her goals, learning how to go with the flow and adapting to unplanned situation with the guidance of Miss AC. Now, a lot of Pickles is also reflected in Melania as well. Pickles, our lovable dog, essentially goes through an entire arc of existential crisis during the event, trying to figure out the bigger meaning to life. In a similar way, Melania goes on a journey to trying to figure out who she is after her father's scandal and his eventual death, all in hopes to learn about herself and how she perceives the world through her own ideals and experiences. And of course, it's not just Diggers and Pickles, but Regulus mirrors Melania as well. Funnily, both of their stories can be seen stemming from a form of pure misunderstanding. So during the step of the Rimet Cup event, hilariously, Regulus is seen misunderstanding the entire situation. But regardless of how much of an airhead she might be portrayed as, the amazing part about Regulus is that she constantly moves forward, making her choices and decisions solely based on what she wants to do. And in similar way, Melania's beginning within her story stems from her misunderstanding in regards to her father's methods and the Ramirez security company. But as we can see at the end of her story, she is able to stay true to herself and goes through with her decisions that she ultimately believes to be correct. Now, I don't know how much of this is intended by the writers, but personally, if all this was planned from the beginning, this event is simply a masterpiece. Not only using real-life references, but also telling a deep meaning behind each characters throughout the storytelling in a much appreciable and meaningful ways. But if we step away for a second from the nitty-gritty details of inspirations and deep meanings of characters, the event simply felt amazing because its huge tapestry narrative unfolding in front of our eyes. One of the big reasons why I absolutely love this event is the way the writers were able to interweave different narratives at the same time, showing us different perspectives within the story, following multiple characters, which all eventually converged together to give us a whole picture. And the coolest part was that everything was either a happenstance, coincidence, or simply a misunderstanding that led to a snowball effect. To give you an example, if it weren't for Digger's crazy shenanigans with his fire engine on Carnaby Street, Melania and Charlton would have never met, which means Pickles would have never been at the exhibition hall. On a different way of looking at it, if Regulus has never met Diggers on Carnaby Street during her racing, her misunderstanding about this huge conspiracy of robots and government wouldn't have led Regulus to break into the exhibition hall, which was also crucial for Pickles to meet Mr. Apple to go in together, and ultimately leading Regulus to expose Iverson's corruption to the entire public through the radio. But hilariously, this was all because of a misunderstanding where Regulus thought Diggers was basically Iverson. It was hilarious. And of course, if Pickle wasn't at the hall, Melania would have never had to swap the remote for the Rimet Cup, ultimately leading Pickles to become a national icon. So all in all, the story of this event was quite a ride and told in a very awesome way. But unlike Melania, who essentially accomplished her goals and found their answer going forward in life, I found it hilarious that others weren't so lucky. Because Pickles is now faced with his busy life as a national hero when all he wanted to do was just chill and read books. Digger's whole plan to showcase the new era of art and pop culture got overshadowed by a dog and the government's corruption. And for Regulus, she didn't even get interviews that she was hoping to rake in all that money. Because again, the spotlight was unfortunately placed on Pickles and Charlton. But I do think this ending was perfect and very comical. And if all the events in the future of Reverse 1999 is this rich in detail and entertaining, I cannot wait to experience them in the future of the game. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, I really appreciate it, and subscribe for more Reverse 1999 content in the future. And of course, once again, I want to thank Reverse 1999 for sponsoring this video. This was awesome to make, I love the event, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And for everyone watching, if you guys haven't already done so, make sure to follow their social media pages. I'll link everything in the description of this video. And if you haven't played the game yet for whatever reason, make sure to try it out. I've been enjoying it and it's been a blast. So with all that said, thank you all for watching until the very end, and I'll see you next time.